All right, everyone, we have to talk about BetterHelp, the situation with this site that literally every other YouTuber at the moment is discussing. Like PewDiePie weighs in on it, and all of a sudden it explodes in popularity. I figured I'd weigh in. I wanted to briefly do a little primer on what the fuck was going on. The first I'd heard about it, I think a couple days ago, was like, "Oh, did you hear about the BetterHelp stuff?" I'm like, "No, I didn't," and then I'm like, "I'm not interested in it." Now, though, you've got Philip DeFranco making his apology, non-apology video, and it involves Shane Dawson and Worski and the kill stream and stuff have dug up info, and so it's sort of enveloping everything Ness. Long story short, for those who aren't aware, and I'm going to avoid doing the blame game largely here. Long story short, there's this site called BetterHelp that appears to have been set up, at least in part, as a scam site. With a bunch of shell companies and weird shit that pays prominent YouTubers among others to post referrals, and then they get money for it. The problem is that it looks like, at least in some cases, this service, which is offering supposedly counseling to people, is allowing people to take part in that aren't actually counselors. They haven't even taken the 40-hour training to be a counselor in any legal sense. That they've got some wonky investment schemes going on, that they're paying shills to raid videos that are criticizing them at the moment, and that their terms of service were a little bit too broad, that they were cutting people off of service randomly who had already paid, that they were refusing to give refunds, non-communication, basically the whole 9 yards of what you would expect from a shady business. Now, without getting too much into, do I think that it's actually a shady business, I'm going to listen to the vast bulk of people that I'm seeing talk about it, that are saying, in having used the service, that they feel that they were not served well, and assume that probably at least some of them are telling the truth. That doesn't mean it's necessarily a full-on scam, but it's sketchy. What the fuck is the average person going to think? But may I just say this, that this is probably reason number one of why I never take corporate deals, sign any contracts, or take a penny from business entities. This is exactly the problem. Because if something goes wrong, let's assume that the creators that were working with them, and I think Worski pointed out, he did a one-off for them a while ago, and he said, well, I'm sorry for having done that because now I think that they're a scam, so I'm apologizing to people. And that's to his credit, by the way. He feels they're a scam. He's saying, well, I'm sorry about that. Good on you. Because, you could have just shoved it under the rug and said, oh, I didn't do anything for them. No, that never happened. No, I never got a penny. I was scammed too. Like some other people appear to be doing at the moment. Because what happens is that the creator can be held responsible, even if they operated out of ignorance. It appears that what DeFranco is saying, he's one of the main people, I guess, referring to this business, is that, well, I had no idea that their terms of service were so weird. I apologize to people I don't think they're a scam. I've worked with them, seemed fine, but people are telling me this, so I'm not going to work with them anymore unless X, Y, and Z happen. Basically, he wants to go and see them himself, talk to them in person, and he wants their TOS changed and stuff to be more ironclad and stuff. And it's that would make sense. But the problem is, let's assume there are two possibilities. Either DeFranco is covering for himself, and some of these others are, or he's being genuine. It doesn't really matter, though, because a lot of people are going to treat those two things the same way. They're going to jump down his throat about it, regardless of his own inclinations. It could be that he was having an off day, he didn't read the TOS fully, signs the paperwork, starts to put the link in the description and all the other stuff, gets the money, thinks everything's above board, and now he's facing a crude reckoning. But it doesn't matter. He's still going to be blamed because he is a prominent figure using it. Everyone who doesn't like him is going to dogpile him, number one. Number two, a lot of people think, well, at the very least, it's shifty. It looks shifty. So what benefit does he get? He gets a bunch of money, but now his brand potentially takes a hit. Well, his brand is his income. That's the whole problem. In my entire time as a creator, never once have I ever signed any form of contract or taken so much as a penny from a business entity. The only exceptions to that rule where I've worked with business groups is hey, review my book or something like that. Will you read my book, leave a review, maybe make a video about it if you're so inclined or something. I've had people do that before. But it's not I'm not under contract, and if I don't like the book, I'm going to be brutally honest about it. So it's when I get Nicholas Schreck's The Manson File book. I like the book, I make a review about the book, I say, hey, I think it's well written, I also think it's true. But I'm not under contract being forced to say that. And if down the road I say, well, I've changed my mind, I fucking hate his guts now, I'm not going to get sued for that. I would never sign any form of business contract, and don't think I haven't had the chance. I get contacted by both small and large, like, corporate firms on a regular basis, cross-platform on YouTube. It used to be half the fucking spam folder was sponsorship deals and shit. Largely, I ignored them. When I did respond, it was basically the effect of, sorry, but I can't do that. And I've had some that appeared to be very lucrative and above board, but I'm not willing to do that. Number one, because of the potential fallout if that business does something shifty. Number two, here's the other part. And we saw this with, like, Candid and stuff. What if the contract is going to fuck you over in the future? Like, you know, oh, you can't even criticize us. Yeah, remember this little piece of paper that you wrote? You can't make a video telling your fans that our service is actually fucking screwy. That's the real big problem. So I would never be under contract for any business. It reduces your own liberty. You know, in some cases, they have various things related to competition, related to everything under the sun. No thanks. I think I'll avoid the legalese. I think it's a good business. Honestly, I think it's a good business decision. If you are large-ish YouTuber, and it begins starting around when you're at 20 or 30,000 subs. You don't have to get to the six-figure range to get people wanting you to do some small business partnership deal. Hey, advertise for our line of flutes. Advertise for our maple syrup, and I don't work for the maple syrup lobby, but Vermont maple syrup is superior to Canadian. Sorry, Canadians, you lose. Advocate, here's our new woolen sock line or something. You'll start getting those offers. And by the way, if you start getting offers before that, usually they're scams. Like businesses, they do seek out who they want to work with. Here's the thing. Make sure you read every fucking line twice. But you probably want to have a lawyer handy, or somebody who knows enough of, your law student ex-roommate or something. Have somebody who's knowledgeable look it over as well, and then think, is the long-term payoff of signing this piece of paper or having this agreement of some form or another, is it likely to be high enough to justify the possibility, the risk, that I, in association with what could end up being a scam, it could go bankrupt and be a corporate laughingstock forever, do I want to be associated with this business? And also, think about, would you use it yourself? Some of the people associated with the BetterHelp thing are like, yeah, I've used it myself, it's fine. But then I'm looking at Warski's video, and it looks like some of those testimonials there were scripted, definitely. Like one of them was supposed to read a testimonial and was actually reading like a review or something. And so it was worded incorrectly, and it was sort of a tell for the fact that it was wrong. And then when you look at the comments section, you see, very generic accounts that appear to be scripted too. There was a cult. I won't name it because it's, I think, defunct at this point. There was a cult, a literal cult in South Africa of morons that shaved their heads and pretended to be spirit mediums, actually. You can look this up and you'll probably find out what I'm talking about. It was on YouTube years and years ago. And I sparred with them at the time because I'm like, basically, you're a bunch of fucking weirdos. They had the largest fucking bot account army you could possibly imagine. I don't know how many hours these morons sat there switching from sock account to sock account, but any video that was critical of their group and like basically, hey, this is some weird shit. This is like Heaven's Gate 2.0, only on steroids. You would get bombarded, and it wouldn't be limited to your video on the subject. They would branch out and they would start hitting everything. They'd mass flag, they would dislike your videos. Back then they had star ratings. They would leave angry comments. They would threaten you in the messages and stuff. Whenever you see something like that happening, you can be assured that some bad faith is probably involved. So I would be skeptical. Like, I wouldn't use their service. At this time, jury's still out on whether the organization itself is total true scam. Would I use the service, though? No. Would I recommend others use the service? No. Too sketchy. The business itself would have to come out and confirm its practices, change its TOS, basically what DeFranco's saying, but even more than that. And when you've got people who are aggrieved on your service, who have been kicked off, they've paid for counseling that they didn't actually get, the counselor apparently in some cases never showed up, for whatever reason. Again, it's not the person who paid's fault. When it is misrepresenting itself as a week by week payment schedule, and then you're being paid up front for 6 months or whatever, that's a problem. That's scam artist behavior. So yeah. That's good reason I never take any business sponsorship. And I never will. 100% of my income is coming from donations and from book sales. It's all above board, yeah, and then the mug stuff, which I don't even really advertise, because I'm trying to get a better design, something more finalized, something more branded, because the older ones, I don't believe even use the new Ouroboros that I use. And I'm very particular about that. There are only 2 Ouroboroses that are sort of official. The one hanging on the wall and the one that I brand across my platforms. By the way, I paid for that myself. Like it's specifically my Ouroboros. Someone's trying to sell T-shirts on Redbubble, actually. With the logo, including like an image of me. So I'm like, those are not official Styx Hexenhammer goods, by the way. You shouldn't buy any of the Redbubble stuff. I will be working in the future possibly with Teespring, because YouTube now has sort of a cross-platform agreement with them. That's possible. I've thought about selling cups and like buttons and pins. Never shirts, by the way. Never sell a shirt, never sell a coat or anything like that, because often I don't wear them. So there you have it about the BetterHelp thing. It's shifty. I think PewDiePie is going to be making a video later on, and I'm definitely watching. You should see Warski's video on the subject. It looks like they got caught with their pants down. It looks like, at the very least, Philip DeFranco's like, well, I didn't know this was going on. Sorry, guys, but that's the whole point. Don't sign corporate sponsorships and deals and shit unless you are fully aware of the ramifications and you have full faith in the company not to, be involved with something like this. It's a bad marketing decision at the very least. And it's intellectually lazy at worst. That's about all. Peace out.